Imagine a world with no houses, no fire pits, no tools shaped from metal. A world where every breath of cold wind was a threat, and every night meant a battle to stay alive. This was the world our ancestors walked into when they stepped out of Africa tens of thousands of years ago. And in this harsh and unpredictable world, humanity created something truly revolutionary, something so simple yet so powerful that it changed the direction of our entire species. Clothing. But the story of the first clothing humans ever wore is not the story most people imagine. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't decorated, and it certainly wasn't fashion. It was raw, instinctive survival, a desperate innovation created in a world where nature dominated every inch of life. Long before clothing existed, early humans lived in warm climates where their own bodies were enough to protect them. But slowly the world began to shift. Temperatures dropped, storms grew stronger, nights stretched longer and colder. For the first time, our ancestors faced a world that could freeze them within hours. And in that moment, a critical thought sparked in the human mind. We can use the world around us to survive it. The earliest clothing probably began with the hunt. When early humans hunted large animals, the meat was food, but the skin was something new, a barrier between them and the cold. At first, these hides weren't shaped or tailored. They were simply wrapped around the body like blankets. No cuts, no stitching, no design. Just raw animal skins tied with vines or held in place with strips of sinew. It was simple, but it worked. A thin layer of warmth meant the difference between life and death. But humans are never satisfied with good enough. Very quickly, they realized hides were stiff, heavy, and difficult to move in. So they began scraping them with sharp stones, softening them, stretching them, and turning them into something more flexible. This was the earliest form of leatherwork, a skill that would eventually lead to everything from boots to bags to armor. These small innovations were the beginning of a new era. Clothing was no longer an accident. It was becoming a craft. As thousands of years passed, humans expanded into Europe and Asia, facing some of the coldest climates the planet has ever seen. Surviving Ice Age winters required more than just wrapping skins. It required engineering, layering, insulation, and most importantly, stitching. That's when one of the most groundbreaking human inventions appeared, the sewing needle. Around 40,000 years ago, humans carved needles out of animal bones. These needles were small, smooth, and polished, with a delicate hole drilled at one end. Creating them required skill, patience, and incredible precision. But once these needles existed, everything changed. With needles, humans could stitch furs together. They could make coats that wrapped tightly around the body, boots that protected the feet, leggings that kept out freezing winds, and hoods that prevented heat from escaping the head. In many ways, these early humans were the first tailors, designing clothes not for beauty, but for survival. And without these inventions, humanity might never have survived the Ice Age at all. But not all humans lived in cold environments. In warmer areas, early clothing took a very different form. Instead of hides, people turned to plants. They stripped bark from trees, twisted fibers into thread, braided grasses into belts, and wove simple skirts or wrap cloths. These early garments weren't meant to keep people warm. They were meant to protect skin from sun, insects, and rough terrain. They were also used for carrying tools, food, and even children. Clothing became more than protection. It became a tool, a part of everyday life. As human societies grew, clothing evolved from something functional into something meaningful. People began decorating their garments with beads, shells, teeth, feathers, and colored pigments. These decorations told stories. They showed which group you belonged to, what your role was, whether you were a hunter, a healer, a leader, or a parent. Clothing became a symbol, a message, a language without words. And yet throughout this evolution, clothing remained tightly connected to survival. Archaeologists studying ancient humans have found evidence of incredibly advanced Ice Age outfits, fur coats layered with grass for insulation, thick leather boots laced with animal sinew, leggings stitched tightly to seal out cold air, and hoods perfectly shaped to trap body heat. These designs were so effective that they inspired modern cold weather gear. It's easy to think of these ancient humans as primitive, but their clothing systems were nothing but. They were the result of tens of thousands of years of innovation, experimentation, and adaptation. In fact, some scientists believe that clothing was one of the major reasons humans were able to spread across the entire planet. Without clothing, humanity would have remained in warm climates, unable to survive the cold environments that shaped the cultures of Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Clothing didn't just protect us, it made migration possible. And migration shaped everything that came after: new foods, new environments, new discoveries, new tools, even new languages. Clothing helped humans become explorers, travelers, storytellers, and builders of civilizations. And one of the most fascinating things about early clothing is that for thousands of years, it left almost no physical trace. Animal hide decays quickly. Plant fibers vanish within decades. That means the earliest evidence we have is indirect: stone scrapers, hide processing tools, needles carved from bone, and impressions on ancient objects showing woven patterns. These clues tell us that clothing may be far older than we once believed, perhaps even older than the earliest known artwork. And when we look at modern clothing today, the fashion industry, the endless styles, the materials and innovations, it's incredible to think that all of it began with a single simple idea: use the world to protect ourselves from the world. Every jacket, every shoe, every thread we wear today is part of that ancient legacy. Clothing became culture, culture became identity, and identity shaped humanity. Our ancestors didn't know they were creating something important. They didn't know that a simple piece of hide would change the destiny of an entire species. They only knew one thing: survive the night. But from that instinct, something extraordinary began. Something that still defines us thousands of generations later. Clothing was more than protection. It was creativity. It was adaptation. It was survival. It was the first technology that truly touched the human body and transformed it. And today, every time you zip a jacket, tie a shoelace, pull on a hood, or wrap a scarf, you are repeating a ritual that began in a world of ice and danger, when one of our ancestors picked up an animal hide, placed it over their shoulders, and unknowingly changed the future of humanity forever. This is the story of the first clothing humans ever wore, the invention that helped us become who we are.